Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons and the exciting moves they could make this offseason. But before we dive into it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss the latest Falcons updates. Drop a comment saying, "Rise up Falcons," if you're ready for this breakdown. Now let's get into it. Jeff Ulbrich is back in Atlanta as our defensive coordinator, and there's a lot of buzz about how the defense could shape up in 2025. If you've been following the Falcons, you know Ulbrich has a history with this team. He started as our linebackers coach and later took over as interim defensive coordinator in 2020 under Raheem Morris. Now that he's back and working with Morris again, don't be surprised if the Falcons look to bring in some of his former players from his time with the New York Jets. Let's talk about 3 players who could make a big impact on our defense. Year 1. Solomon Thomas. This guy is exactly the kind of edge rusher we need. Last season with the Jets, he put up solid numbers, 3.5 sacks, 15 solo tackles, and 1 forced fumble. Compare that to Lorenzo Carter, who struggled with 0 sacks and only 4 QB pressures last season. Thomas has consistently outperformed Carter and would cost less against the salary cap. Plus, he already knows Ulbrich's defensive system, so he'd fit right in. At 30 years old, he still has plenty left in the tank and could give our pass rush the boost it desperately needs. 2. Isaiah Oliver. You might remember Oliver from his time here in Atlanta, where he showed promise before heading to San Francisco and then the Jets. In 2024, he played 576 snaps, mostly as a slot corner, and had his best missed tackle rate since his rookie year, just 6.4%. Standing at 6'4", he brings size and physicality to a secondary that really struggled last season, especially in the nickel position. D. Alford didn't meet expectations, and Oliver could be a smart, cost-effective upgrade. With his familiarity with both Morris and Ulbrich, a reunion feels very possible. Now let's talk about Javon Kinlaw, a name that should fire up anyone who loves a strong defensive presence. Kinlaw is coming off his best season yet, with 4.5 sacks, 27 solo tackles, and 2 forced fumbles. At 6'4" and 315 pounds, he's a beast in the trenches. He could slide right into our front four and make an immediate impact. David Onyemata has been solid for us, but at 33, his best years might be behind him. Kinlaw, on the other hand, is only 28 and entering his prime. His postseason experience with the 49ers brings valuable leadership, and in Ulbrich's 4-3 defensive scheme, Kinlaw's size and strength could be a true game changer. So, why are we targeting these former Jets players? It's simple: familiarity and proven performance. These are players who've thrived under Ulbrich before and can adapt to his system quickly, a big deal for a team that needs to overhaul its defense fast. Plus, they address some of our biggest needs: pass rush, secondary depth, and interior defensive line strength. With the NFC South wide open, making the right moves this offseason could be the difference between missing the playoffs and making a serious run. Now it's your turn, Falcons fans. What do you think of these potential moves? Should we go after Solomon Thomas, Isaiah Oliver, or Javon Kinlaw? Or is there someone else on your radar? And let's not forget one of the biggest offseason questions: the backup quarterback situation. Who will it be? Kirk Cousins, Andy Dalton, or Jameis Winston? Let's break it down. All right, Falcons fans, let's break down the current situation at backup quarterback. First up, we've got Kirk Cousins. The former Pro Bowler is technically still on the Falcons roster, but let's be real, his future with the team doesn't look great. After being benched for rookie Michael Penix Jr. late last season, it feels like the writing is on the wall. Sure, GM Terry Fontenot has publicly said the team is comfortable with Cousins as the backup, but is that really the case? Let's unpack this. Are they truly comfortable with such an expensive backup? Comfortable with a quarterback who led the league in interceptions before he was benched. Comfortable might not be the best choice of words. Here's the tricky part. Cousins is due a $10 million roster bonus in March. While Fontenot insists the team's cap situation at quarterback is on track, it's hard to ignore that Atlanta is currently $9.76 million over the salary cap. So what's the plan? Do the Falcons bite the bullet and keep Cousins as one of the priciest backups in the league, or do they look for a cheaper, possibly better-fitting option behind Penix? That brings us to two possible replacements, Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. Let's start with Dalton. Andy Dalton is a name most football fans know. Over his 14-year career, he's been through just about everything, from leading playoff teams with the Bengals to mentoring young quarterbacks like Bryce Young in Carolina. Last season, Dalton appeared in 6 games for the Panthers, completing 66.3% of his passes with 7 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. While those numbers aren't jaw-dropping, Dalton's real value lies in his experience and leadership. He's the kind of veteran who could be an excellent mentor for Michael Penix Jr., guiding him through the challenges of being a starting quarterback in the NFL. And then, of course, there's Jameis Winston. All right, Falcons fans, let's talk about Jameis Winston. I know what you're thinking. Winston has been a thorn in our side for years. But hear me out. Winston is only 31 years old and brings a wealth of experience with 88 career starts under his belt. He's felt the pressure of being a former #1 overall pick, and that kind of experience is invaluable. Last season, Winston went 2-5 as a starter for the Cleveland Browns, but we shouldn't forget his potential. When he's at his best, he's got a rocket arm and can be a game changer. Having Winston on our side for a change might actually feel refreshing. And let's admit it, seeing him help us instead of torching us would be a nice change of pace. Now, when comparing Dalton and Winston to Cousins, it's not really about who's had the better career. Cousins is a 4-time Pro Bowler with plenty of accolades, but at this stage, it's all about fit and value. Cousins is set to cost a massive $37.5 million next season, while Dalton and Winston would come at a fraction of that price. And let's be honest, based on Cousins' last 5 games, 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions, it's hard to argue that he's still the best option on the field. If the Falcons can move on from Cousins' contract, they could free up valuable cap space to address other critical needs, like bolstering the offensive line or strengthening the secondary. Now let's look at the bigger picture. Michael Penix Jr. showed flashes of brilliance in his 3 starts last season, but he's still a rookie heading into his first full year as a starter. This makes the backup quarterback position in Atlanta much more than just an insurance policy. It's a key piece of Penix's development. A veteran backup can be a mentor, a sounding board, and even a second coach on the field. That's why this decision is so important. So, where do we stand? The Falcons have options, but they need to act fast. If they stick with Cousins, they'll be committing a huge chunk of cap space to someone who's no longer a starter. If they move on, they'll have to choose between seasoned veterans like Dalton and Winston, both of whom bring something unique to the table. It's a tough call, but one that could make a big difference in the team's success in 2025. All right, Falcons fans, it's your turn. What do you think the team should do? Should they stick with Kirk Cousins and hope for a bounce-back year, or is it time to bring in someone new like Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more exclusive Falcons content. Go Falcons!